What's going on, people? Today we're going to go over the 75, and actually we got up to at one point 80 rallies that went on in this kingdom that has basically become LH versus most everybody else. But as you guys will know, LH has a huge following as it is, so it's not really as one-sided as you would seem. The only issue that LH has run into is that nobody's really come to help them at all, at all. So it seems very outnumberish, but might I remind you that that's what LH generally does to people. So it's kind of fitting to see it on the other foot. Now they get to see what it feels like when they're the ones that are massively outnumbered, and it doesn't look like they're faring too well. Now on this one, this rally party actually didn't take too long to put together. I would say maybe a little bit over a day. But you know what the main issue is with rally parties of this size? Word gets around, you know, you tell your guild, hey, be ready, and then for some reason they start telling other people and blah blah blah. And before you know it, like the day of, everybody pretty much already knew. They were talking about it in the kingdom chat. It was like, okay, we're really not gonna catch nobody off guard. So in a way, we kind of knew that we were gonna run into a bunch of like rally party traps with 200 million troops and whatnot, but we were trying to see also if we were gonna catch somebody in Fury or somebody that maybe thought that they could take it but they definitely couldn't, kind of like that last guy that lost about 1 billion might in a matter of seconds. So we were trying to see just what we can go for, and we started going for bigger targets because everything else would be shielded already. We got this one from MSE that was a bit over 2.7 billion might and shielded. So that tells you right there, imagine 2.7 billion might and shielding just because of the sheer amount of rallies. Now another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of times might doesn't really mean much. What's really going to matter is your comp and how well you can actually take this amount of rallies. There are accounts out there that their base might is very low. I'm talking like 300, 400 million might, but their total might is over 2 billion. So that means that they'll have like 150 million, 200 million T2 front line. It's going to be hard even with 70 or 80 rallies. So we try to find somebody that we can actually target and get some burns off before we started going into the known traps. There were some that were making it super obvious, like they were getting like scouting us and whatnot, and they were only like 2.2 billion or even just 2 billion, and it's like you couldn't make it any more obvious that you're literally just here for this rally party, because it was common knowledge by the start of the day anyway. So but this one was actually in Fury. Now what I don't understand here is why they didn't go to the forest, because okay, you're probably gonna burn, but if you do burn, you're gonna cancel all the other ones if you go to the forest. But they decided not to, and let me tell you, they didn't really work out too well, because take a look at the sheer amount of rallies. There's just an endless supply of them. Like, my goodness, look at this. It just keeps coming out of nowhere. There's the burn finally, and I'm over here trying to click on it, and I'm like, okay, let me see if I can click it, but I can't because there's so many freaking little ants walking back that it's like impossible to actually click and take a look at the might. Now he started at about what, 2.2, 2.3, and he's all the way down to under 1.2. So that's already 1 billion might lost in just seconds. And it's like, why didn't he go to the forest? Like, I know sometimes when people are getting rallied and whatnot, people tend to panic and they don't think properly, so they start making mistakes. But I feel like this one was a pretty easy call, right? If you have 80 something rallies on you, go to the forest. That way when you burn on the first one, the next ones after aren't just completely devastating to you. So I don't know, I guess it is what it is. Looks like from CAE we actually got 4 million on that one, which means that we actually did get a counter. That also means that he was in a range front. I'm willing to bet that it was a range wedge. And so that means that the ones that are in the 3 point something or 4 million, there were infantry rallies. The one that was probably like 2.9 or 3.2 or something, those were cavalries, etc. So, I mean, look at the sheer amount of rallies that we had going on. Like, it was insane. And you know, with rally parties of this size, usually as the hour, second hour go on, you start seeing guilds kind of like, okay, we don't have a lead anymore, or we don't have fillers to fill. But the rallies didn't actually go down whatsoever. I think everybody knew that this was insane amount of rallies. I believe, now don't quote me on this, but I believe this might be the second biggest rally party ever in Lords Mobile. I'm pretty sure that the biggest one was from LH a couple of years back, and that one got into the 90s and close to 100 rallies at once. I think it was like Kingdom 757 or something. But yeah, this was years ago, and there's really not the player base that it was years ago either. So I feel like this is the more impressive one considering. Now, of course, this one right here ported in from another kingdom, and it's like, okay, well, we know why you're here, buddy. It's no surprise. We know what you're here for. And it was under 2 billion might, but you know, it's like we know that he's gonna have probably less than 800 million core might. And so I was ready to set the rally as soon as hours hit, and that's essentially what we needed to do. As soon as your guild hit, you had to have your backup lead ready to set, just in case he didn't port away or something like that. And honestly, if it was, again, if I was him and I was taking these rallies, see how they're just coming one at a time, slowly and slowly, I would have probably ported and kept porting to see if maybe they set rallies, but it would be not very well timed, and maybe that would have given him the time to actually be able to migrate out. Because since he just stood there, it was very easy for the second leads to actually go ahead and set again. And this one actually got in Fury also. So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, you got in Fury, you know that you got to take at least 2 waves. But if you can take the first wave and you can make it where the second wave isn't coming at you all at once, then maybe you have a better shot. But that's not what he did. They kind of just stood there and just waited for everybody else to set, and so it kind of saved us the time, which, you know, we appreciated. But yeah, he was definitely thinking that he was going to take all of these. Now, what's interesting is that the first wave was mostly infantry rallies, and it looks like he adjusted by going, it was either infantry front or a cavalry front. And so he took those very, very well. And on the second wave, we adjusted by just going what everybody was assigned at the beginning. And so it was more of a mixed amount of rallies, cav, inf, etc. And what we did is we went ahead and sent a couple to see which ones we hit best. And cavalry was absolutely doing the best. So he had an infantry front line, more than likely an infantry wedge. And so what we did is we started to send all the cavalry rallies to go ahead and carpet in. And this is where you're going to start seeing the big drops, because it was all the cavalry rallies going in first. And once the cavalry rallies did a bunch of the damage, you'll see here that like the big drops that are going to come. Because infantry was only doing like 10, 15 million. It wasn't really doing too much. But take a look at this. Look at the amount of drops. So from there, I already had Carp kind of already typed out. That way we knew when to go ahead and start the carpets. But he was already down to 946. And I was like, okay, so if the infantry is done, that means that everything else is going to be gone. And there goes the burn as well. I noticed that the carpets weren't being carpeted. And I can't even blame them, because sometimes I would try to carpet and it just didn't register. I don't know if it was like the game was super laggy and whatever, but yeah, like sometimes you would hit carpet and it would not go anywhere. It was really, really interesting. But yeah, this guy went from 2 billion might to guess the final might. Guess the final might. If you were to guess what is his base might, it was 400 million. So it was 1.6 billion might in troops. Now that is insane. Now, of course, after a while, everybody was shielding up, etc. So we figured, okay, well, let's go for the big boy. 2.4 billion might, LH Matty, 5-piece Emperor. Surely, he's going to try to take these. Now, he was not in Fury. He, you know, we knew that he was online because maybe like 30 minutes prior to this, he was in another guild. He was in XFP. And then he went back to LH5. So it wasn't like he wasn't on or, you know, or anything like that. He did not have Fury. And we figured, well, we have all these rallies. What better shot to go ahead and do it right now? You know what I mean? Even if he does eat it all, he probably can. I mean, 2.4 billion might, 5-piece Emperor with his stats. It's, you know, it's probably going to be able to eat it fairly well. And if he has no Fury, then after that, it's, you know, he can do whatever he wants. So with that, let's go ahead for it. And long and behold, he migrated out. Are you kidding me? Now, of all the moves that I saw coming, the only time I would have seen him migrating out is after he took the hits and taking like the leaders or something. But wow, that I'm just gonna go ahead and leave you here. The end with the very toxic Kingdom chat. There is a couple more rallies to show you, but I'll do that again in another video because it was very impressive. The one's coming up next. But yeah, I'll leave you guys here with the Kingdom chat toxicity. Devil that's in our ear, let it push you to see.